This is Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira from the Corner of the Galaxy podcast, and you're listening to the Seleção podcast. Força Portugal.
Simões bending one for Torres. Eusebio. Oh my word! Have you ever seen anything like that?
Bem jogado por Simão, a passar por dois adversários, Simão, a tentar oferecer o golo a Figo, e a bola é golo! O golo de Figo!
Rui Costa vai, acreditou, vai tirar para o golo, atira, golo! 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 Cristiano Ronaldo, vai embora Cristiano Ronaldo, bateu, golo, 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 golo! Chuta! Gol! Gol!
And we welcome you to episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. My name is Danny Pinto. I am your host. And we thank you once again for tuning in to another episode, whether you're listening to us via your podcasting platforms or right here on youtube.com/Seleção podcast. Go ahead and hit that like button, that subscribe button. Make sure that you guys are letting us know in the comments your thoughts on what was a very, I would say, kind of encapsulates the entire last couple of years, I would say, where, if you would have told me beforehand that Portugal would have gone into Spain without Ronaldo in the starting lineup and play as shaky as they did and still come away with a 1-1 draw on paper before anything got going, I think a lot of us would have taken it. But the manner in which the team kind of played, I would say the first half, especially maybe towards the end of the first half, kind of started getting a little bit better. Came out the second half a little bit stronger, but it just never felt like anything was going to happen. And then, of course, everybody knew that Ricardo Horta, on his return to the Seleção, would get that equalizing goal and get the Seleção a much needed. I don't know if I would say much deserved, but I would say much needed point in Spain to open up Nations League play for the 22-23 session here. So we will go over the matchup here on episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast with the return. Long-awaited return. People have been clamoring, and I'm like, when are you going to get the hammer on? And I'm like, first of all, it's the Portuguese Hammer. And second, we're going to get him back for episode 62, and that's exactly what we have in store for you, as Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, is back on the Seleção podcast to help me break down and discuss what happened in Spain, where Portugal escaped, to be fair, with a 1-1 draw. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at selecaopod. Facebook.com, I think we still do that. Facebook.com/selecaopod. You can email the show, selecaopod@gmail.com. And, of course, bookmark our website, selecaopod.com. You can subscribe to us and follow us on so many podcasting platforms all around the world. Of course, the main ones, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon. You can go ahead and subscribe and follow us there. And, of course, right here on youtube.com/Selecaopod. Make sure you guys are subscribing and liking each and every episode, and go ahead and leave some comments there for us about like I said, about the past game, or if you want to go back in the archives of Seleção lore, go back to the stuff that me and Eric Krakauer did during Euro 2020 when it was super fun talking about tough matchups over and over again, and how Fernand Sanch can't figure out what to do with all this talent. And yet it's 2022, and here we are, and it's the same issue over and over again. I will say this as we bring on our guest here, Eric Vieira. Eric, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I think Ricardo Horta was kind of the story, 7-year absence and then a return. So the same with myself. I had not quite a 7-year absence, but it's been a little while since we've touched base. So it's nice to be back on and talk some hot Portuguese soccer action here.
I believe it's a 39 episode absence, so I think it's almost the same. Yeah, I think it's almost the same. But yeah, Eric, the thing for me, and I'll get right to it, is, people are going to complain about Fernandes, understandably so. I've been calling for him to be fired for a while. I've called for him to be, and I was going to tweet this out, but I felt I could just put it here on the podcast and get some immediate feedback from you. Arguably, he could have been fired after World Cup 2018, but I would say the equity of 2016 gave him the reprieve there. When you talk about 2020 for the Euros, the way that the team played, the way that the style has just not matched the talent, and in terms of the last two qualifiers, finishing in second, all the I's and T's and all that to be dotted and crossed for a firing would have been justified, in my opinion. I still thought he should have been fired after getting us to the World Cup following the qualifying in the playoff. And yet here we are. He's still here. And at some point, I just want to tell everybody, I guess myself included, save your breath. He ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I being an avid listener of the program and listening to, Tom Kundert and Nathan Moats and Eric Krakauer, I think I was, not to be a broken record, but I think I was right there with the majority of you saying, after the performance in the Euros, that, okay, maybe it's time to hit the reset button and let's get some new blood in there and get things going. And then after failing to make a direct berth into the World Cup, I was there with you. Okay, it's time. Let's get a new coach in there. But maybe that would have been a little bit too risky. I think the pragmatic, level-headed approach is you're not going to change a coach going into.
And
I
get that. I get that. I do.
Yeah. So I came to accept that Fernandes was going to be our guy moving forward, because I don't think if you get us into a World Cup, you don't say, okay, thanks for getting us there. Now let's reset. I mean, you just kind of have to live with it that now he got us there. He earned the fact that, he's now going to be able to coach in another World Cup. And I think regardless of what happens in this World Cup in the winter, I think there probably will be, his swan song. And listening to what you and some other guests have shared, a lot of the players, this is kind of it's a nice, bow to wrap as a World Cup. Let's a lot of these players who have been part of this generation. I think this might be if he's, obviously he probably feels some of this. It's like, if this is a time to fire him or to move on, it would be after this World Cup. Even if he wins it all, I think this is, maybe you pull a John Elway and you just walk off the field and say, I want it again. I'm retiring, I'm resigning and calling it. So I think this is the final, push for Fernandes. But that being said, as someone who wanted him gone prior to the World Cup playoff, his selection of Otavio, bringing him in, was a difference. Obviously he had a huge impact in that World Cup playoff. And then, Ricardo Horta, how we talked about it today, I saw that sub go on. I said, what are we doing here? And he's the one who walks away with the goal. So he somehow, even though he has this collection of players, and maybe whether you want to call it stubbornness or, dedication to his core group that he keeps bringing back, he still manages to pull the right strings and put the players in the right position. And he just manages to kind of get these results. And so, you grit your teeth and you say, it's not flashy. It's not sexy and maybe living up to the expectations that you want for this Portuguese national team. But at the end of the day, you go into Spain and you steal a point from them. That's a successful trip. I think they did their job today. Could have been worse. I think Spain, talking about Portugal being the same as they've been in previous, kind of what we saw last time, is some frustrating moments and, passes not being crisp. I think Spain, you could say the same thing, from their performances, dominating possession, passing teams to death, but not having more than one goal to show for it. That's kind of on them that they weren't able to capitalize on their chances as well. So I think, Portugal, it does feel like Spain were the better side on the night. So Portugal did steal a point, but at the end of the day, you play with who's on the field and you deal with the hand that you've been dealt, and they were able to put away their one chance, and that was enough to get them a point and get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about perspective. I mean, if you look at it from the Spanish point of view, obviously they're going to be very disappointed with the way that they did, control the game for the most part to come away with the 1-1 draw. If Portugal had been, kind of like and I hate going back to this game, but like with Germany, we all remember that the Germany game, they got throttled, but a lot of people forget that we actually were up in that game, 1-0 to start off. And, if you were to come away with, anytime you have the lead and come away with, less than 3 points, it's always going to be disappointing. So I think from the Portuguese perspective, just in terms of the result, not so much how the result came about, you have to be pleased with getting a point on the road away in Spain. You have the Swiss coming in to Portugal on Sunday the 9th, and we'll go ahead and talk about that in a little bit in terms of how you're going to be able to view that, especially here in the States, because it's not going to be televised, and ESPN does not have the rights to it. Fox does, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I think overall, as previously mentioned, and I think we both are of the opinion that if you were to just tell us, yeah, you're out of here with a draw on paper before anything gets going, you would take it. But it just, I have not a bad feeling, because I think that could get too dramatic too, and there's plenty of drama that came out of today with not only the way they played, but how they perhaps may look physically with garment. If they wear a certain white, or what is it called? Sail. Yeah.
I don't know if we're saving that, but we'll get into.
We're making up colors as we speak, but to get into the lineup today, I think that I have seen all I need to see of Danilo playing center back for this national team. I don't need to see it anymore. I think he is a great liability in the back, given that Pep has still at 39 years old, still playing at a high level, not obviously at his best level, and that would be foolish to say so, but he still has a way and a knack of putting himself in the right situation almost always. But when you have Danilo, who is not a traditional center back, playing center back, you take him away from a role that I actually think he does play pretty well as a defensive mid, and yet you leave your midfield completely without structure or kind of guidance in terms of a defensive strategy, because João Moutinho, God bless him, I am a huge fan of his, have been for a long time. He was non-existent today. We mentioned Otávio. He was not doing much of anything there. The middle of that midfield, and we will get to Bruno Fernandes, but it just left such a gap, and it just seemed like the entire middle of the field today was just wide open and uninspiring, and nothing came from it, both from an offensive or defensive point of view, in terms of how Portugal could have played today. I don't know what your thoughts are on kind of all of that, but I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I saw it a little bit differently. I'm gonna not to be hot takey here or just to be devil's advocate, but I thought Danilo in the back, I don't have as much of an issue with it. I think if he's good enough to step in that spot for PSG, for his club, I think he's good enough to step in that spot for the national team. And given the injuries and things that we've had, I don't hate having him back there, especially as like a backup option when you don't have, a full complement of healthy center back. So I'm not as down on him playing center back. But to your point, there was that gaping hole in there. And João Moutinho, this was not his shiniest moment, his best moment in a Portugal shirt. He definitely did not have. And
to be fair, Eric, I don't think it's his fault.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I think it goes to Fernandes Santos putting him in a role that he maybe has never been able to play, but is certainly not at this age.
Yeah. And so Danilo in that spot could have provided that, that backstop, that stability, and could have been better in that kind of holding defensive midfield position as opposed to Moutinho. So I wasn't as down on it. And then offensively, I'm a Andre Silva, truther, I'm out there trying to, kind of argue for him. I think he doesn't always get the service that he maybe needs. And I liked Rafael Leal. I liked what they brought. There were chances there. I think Leal had a couple chances where he could have easily put the ball in the back of the net, and Silva also looked dangerous. So I liked seeing that pairing. I'd like to see more of them together on the field, because I think if they can build a chemistry, that could definitely be, a Portuguese attack of the future. So I think I wasn't as down on the performance, and I don't know if this is going to be an unpopular opinion considering the audience of being people who love the Seleção. But you mentioning it earlier, you said, I think you've seen all that you've needed to see. And I think after 2016 and going into the 2018 World Cup and saying, okay, look at this talent, these players who are performing well at the club, look at all the talent that Portugal has on this roster. They should be out there, competing with the elite of the elite teams. But watching them perform in those tournaments, the last 2 tournaments that they've been in, I think I saw what I needed to see. And I saw the Bruno Fernandes and the, Bernard Silvas at the national level. They don't bring it the same way they do at the club level. So I've seen what I needed to see. And I think there is a drop off from the Spains, from the Frances, from the Belgiums, which you saw, which I hate to say because Belgium gets far too much credit for not having won.
Absolutely.
But I think there is a drop off from Portugal. So I think if you look at that objectively and you say, okay, maybe Portugal isn't, the elite of the elite, but they can go in there and steal a result. And if you look at it from that perspective, you can be happy with the result. But I think going in there and saying they were outpassed, they were outmanned versus Spain. Spain, had their way with them for a good chunk of the match. Portugal, I think, like you mentioned, found their footing at the end of the half, at the start of the second half, into the first half, started the second half. They had a lot of good moments, and then it started to kind of fall apart there. And up until the Cancelo kind of, he put that ball on a platter, one of the best outside back on the world. We've seen him do that time and time again. So to see him do that on the club level, you see how much he was missing at the Euro.
100%.
That ball that was delivered. So I think you have to be happy with the result. I wasn't as down on the performance. Yeah, it wasn't great. But when you look at who you were playing and who your competition was and how well they played, I think, hey, not too bad.
You know what this P stands for?
Well, it has
perspective.
Multiple meanings, right? Perspective,
yeah,
beant,
yeah,
Portugal, yeah,
beant, Portugal, yeah. It's look, you get it, yeah. It's again, I think, Eric, I think right now for a lot of fans, myself included, and I'm not saying that you're not of this kind of thinking, but I think we're just so tired of the same kind of guys not stepping up. And at some point, it's easier to change out a manager than it is to change out a handful of players. And, Bruno Fernandes has struggled for the most part, kind of cementing his way on with this Seleção squad. I think Bernard Silva, while not the Man City Bernard Silva, I think he's kind of found his way a little bit more. I would say in the last,
and you know what you're going to get. He's not a letdown.
And I think let's get into Bruno Fernandes. I think the number one thing with Bruno Fernandes right now, it's between the ears. There is no reason a guy that good should not be playing well, whether it's at an international level or a club level. And I think that today could have been a day where you don't have Ronaldo in the lineup. You could have been a guy who could be looked at as someone that the team could lean on in terms of the attack, in terms of creativity. And I would say, I even tweeted it out during the game, he looked shaky for the first 10 minutes. And then he just looked shaky the entire game. He just never found footing. Him not the only one. There were players out there that just did not have their best day. Yeah. But a guy like him who commands the attention that he does, fairly or unfairly, he's going to be looked at and scrutinized a little bit more than say an Otávio or even Rafael Leão, who made his first start today.
Which is funny you mentioned that, because this is kind of going to what I was saying about the, come to the dark side, have the acceptance of just, what your eyes have shown you. And what the eyes have shown you is that Bruno Fernandes has not been that guy who has stepped up over time. So I did not have that expectation for him to be the guy to step up. I was actually more excited to see, Rafael Leão. I wanted to see, okay, can he transfer that form that he's had, with AC Milan, and can he, make some magic happen? And I think you saw glimpses of it. And once he kind of gets it right, I think he's going to be a player that's going to be formidable in the future. But with Fernandes, I think, similar to Ronaldo as well, I think that's a symptom of what's happened at their club. They had, Manchester United, that season was not a great season for them and their expectations. I think
it was pretty bad.
Yeah, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of like you said, between the years, I think there was a lot of just kind of mental stuff that they couldn't get right, because you look at that roster at Manchester United, similarly, a lot of great players, but they just mentally did not seem to have what it takes. And I think you're seeing like a hangover system of that with Bruno Fernandes, and also with our captain CR7 when he came in. I don't know if he thought he was coming into WrestleMania, but he came in and wanted to fight everybody. He came in more for a wrestling match than he did for a soccer match. So I think that he's getting some of those hangover symptoms as well. So maybe they can play into form over these Nation Leagues games. But I did not have the expectation for Fernandes to be the guy to step it up, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and I think if there ever was a time though, it would have to be like situations like this. And maybe you're right. I mean, it's something that, maybe it's not an expectation that we are expecting of him. But maybe it's one of those things where it's like, all right, if it's not now, when? And if it's not, if we don't know when that's going to be, what is he doing out there? Because he's not contributing in a positive way for the national team. And, some guys, it doesn't click for him, and I still hold out hope that it will for him, because if it does, then that's obviously a huge positive and a huge boon to the national team for sure. But I don't think he is by any means an automatic starter. But I still think that it's way too early to kind of write him off, and not that we are. I think some people are, but that's just being a fan. But I just think he just. I just really think a new manager is, and I go back to it, and I didn't want to, but I just think a new manager would hopefully be able to unlock the curse that is this unattractive football that kind of becomes contagious with all these high profile, super skilled players. That it just doesn't translate when it comes to the national team.
Yeah, it really just becomes a Rubik's Cube. It's just a matter of, okay, how many times can I turn this thing, and which combination of players can I put in there to bring out the best out of everyone? And, the Otávio, João Moutinho, Bruno Fernandes center that did not solve the cube today. So we're, hopefully, I'm sure Santos sees that, and maybe they'll see some changes. Maybe we see someone like, João Palhinha, who I liked what he, brought previously in his previous national team stints. Maybe he can be someone who, takes some of the pressure off, because he's kind of a little bit more of a direct player. So who knows what the correct permutation is, but the one we saw today was not it. We can agree on that.
Yeah. If you're talking about a Rubik's Cube, those guys were the just the squares with the stickers peeled off, because you couldn't figure out where they would go. They were definitely round. What is it? Round circle.
Oh yeah. Now we're messing up our metaphors. Yeah, we're gonna end up backwards.
That's not for us to decide here. We're talking with Eric Vieira of the Corner of the Galaxy podcast. You can hear that podcast normally is it Mondays and Thursdays via YouTube and podcasting platforms.
That is correct. Mondays and
Thursdays. They of course call you Mr. Thursday Night.
Yeah, I am on the Thursday, bring the fan perspective. That's kind of my go-to is on the Thursday nights. Mondays are reserved for, I guess if you're going to have an LA Times, beat reporter, I guess that's fair. I guess if I'm going to be beat out by someone, that's the way we do it. But, I come in, to drop the hammer, to use one of my own terms there on Thursday nights and have a lot of fun with the show, talking some LA Galaxy, bringing the soccer of the United States, supporting our local clubs and our local game here in the States. You got to show some love to our local teams. And of course, we got Danny, if you're watching on YouTube, showing the merch. Yeah. Merch is available. Yeah. Get your Portuguese Hammer.
Are you guys still selling these?
Yeah, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Still available for $1.
Beautiful.
For $1. What more do you want?
The shipping will cost more than the sticker. Sorry, I'm just going to
100%
let you know. but yeah, I think the last time I had you on, I think either I had one already, or I had told you that we had put it in one of my kids' rooms, and they love the sticker. So
yeah.
It's a good looking sticker. Good merch. Hey, good for you, man. Good for you. So obviously we come away with a 1-1 draw. The thing about these games, Eric, and let me get your perspective on my thinking heading into these Nations League games for June. Considering that we just finished a domestic season on all counts, excuse me. When I saw that Ronaldo was called to the squad, I'm like, okay, I get it, but I wouldn't have minded him, getting the summer off, going on summer vacation like we all did when we were kids. Pep the same way. Obviously, I understand it because Ruben Dias is not around. You need a veteran presence back there. Obviously, after today, João Moutinho should have the summer off. But I was not against, and I actually would have been a fan of seeing some of these younger players get a more extended look to try to build some cohesion with the rest of the squad, because I don't think, and this might be a very incorrect statement that I'm about to make, but I don't think you need to have and build cohesion with guys like Ronaldo and Pep because they are the elder statesmen of the squad, and that they're going to be there. And you kind of have to adapt, especially with Ronaldo. You kind of have to adapt to the way he plays. But I think in the long run, we're not only talking about the World Cup. We're talking about the next 5-10 years. And I think that the seasoning has to start at some point. And I thought that these June matchups could have been a great platform. With that said, they go with a seasoned call up. I'm going to cough, Eric, for a second. So I don't know if you can.
You want me to filibuster?
Yeah, filibuster. Go ahead and talk about something.
I actually disagree with you slightly. I think because see, right as you're drinking, so you can't respond to my disagreement. But
I'm back. Be quiet. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Because this is a competitive tournament, I think it is important to have Pep when he's available and Ronaldo when he's available. But seeing how Ronaldo was left on the bench today, I think that's a good thing. I think we've all been dreading / kind of waiting for the inevitable. When is CR7 not going to be the starter, and can he transition into a super sub role if he needs to? Given his aging at some point, the man's going to grow old. His hair plugs look great, but maybe he is getting a little longer in the tooth. So okay, when is that transition going to happen? And that may happen. Here we can see how he works as a super sub coming off the bench. And I think you might be looking a little bit too far in advance. I think the end goal is the World Cup, and Pep will be at the World Cup. Ronaldo will be at the World Cup. So if you are going to bring the young players like Leao, like Otavio, like, Horta, some of these players, you want to see how do they mesh, not with each other, but how do they mesh with Ronaldo? How do they mesh with Pep on the field? So I think you do want to see that interaction, because you don't want them. We've had this discussion as well. Portugal play a bit better when Ronaldo's not on the field. Well, when they need their best 11, Ronaldo's going to be on the field. So you want to see who's going to work when he's on the field. So I think I see the value in bringing him, and seeing how he was used today. I think that's valuable. I think you are going to get the young guys the run out. Andre Silva is going to be able to go out there and get starter minutes, as opposed to just being asked to come on in the last 15, 20 minutes and make some magic happen. Give him some time to grow into the game, and then bring in, CR7 and kind of build that chemistry later. So I see it slightly differently. I do see a value, but had they stayed home, that could have been an opportunity. But this is a competition. You do want to try to win, or at the very least not get relegated. That you do want to try to put out a competitive best players there. And so I would have wanted them there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. It's because they have 4 matches in 10 days, and Fernando Santos even mentioned like there's going to be rotation no matter what. Mm-hmm. So maybe you have Ronaldo just being on the outside looking in terms of the starting 11, solely based on the rotation for the rest of these four matches, because it's as of this recording, it was today, Thursday, and then they play Sunday, and then they play Thursday, and then they play Sunday again. So that's 4 matches in just about 10 days. I think the stat was they haven't played 4 matches, or haven't been scheduled for 4 matches in 10 days. I think since like 1966 or something.
Wow.
So
even in a World Cup year, that's still more truncated than they would get in a World Cup year. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important that, I guess, and I think you make a fair point too, where maybe I am looking a little too far ahead, because I think we all see that the end is coming.
Mhm.
but we still have to worry about the present instead of, what is next. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a perspective that and if you're watching again on YouTube, the
I
P.
was gonna say we need like a
perspective.
sound effect. I need ding perspective.
Yeah, I'll add it to the the podcast version.
It's like what's message? What was that? Don't be a menace to South Central. Message.
Oh,
You ever seen that? Did I
Yeah.
lose you on that one? You're of the right age
No.
to appreciate that.
No, I watched. The Wayans brothers, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I am looking at it a little too far ahead, and I think some folks on Twitter didn't eloquently put it that way as you did. People like, why are you not sending your best guys? And yeah, so it's fair. I think it's a fair assessment what you provided there, and it's okay to disagree.
Yeah, that's
It's
what we need in these trying times.
Boy, yeah, that's for another show, my man. We're talking with Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, here on episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast. I am your host, Danny Pinto. We are looking back at the match against Spain as Portugal escaped Spain with a 1-1 draw, courtesy of what was it? I think the 82nd minute of regulation. 82nd minute. Thank you very much, sir. As João Cancelo found the re-debuting Ricardo Horta, and he found the back of the net. And let's talk about the goal real quick. You mentioned how what a difference and what a loss João Cancelo was last summer when not to have him at the Euros, and you could see kind of like that wing back system that the Portuguese fans kind of want to see again going into the future, and having the ability or having someone with the ability of João Cancelo to just whip one right into the box there. How surprised were you that Ricardo Horta found himself so wide open, considering that Spain, and I'm sure Spain maybe were not sitting on a 1-0 lead, but I was very shocked at how open he was, given the circumstance of the game with just about 10 minutes left to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the replay pulled up. I think there were about 3 Portuguese players who it could have slipped through and gone to a number of different players. Horta just happened to manage to be the guy who was in the right place at the right time. So yeah, they were able to get in behind the defenders. You saw it with Spain's goal on the counter, just an expertly crafted counter, and Portugal kind of similarly, with Cancelo getting down the edge, in catching Spain off guard. Essentially, that's what they were able to do because Spain was dominating possession. I don't think they were expecting Portugal to spring on them like they did. So I think Spain was surprised by the move, and but when you give someone with the talent of Cancelo the space, we've seen him put that ball just in the perfect space with Man City. We've seen him do it for several seasons. So to see him do it at the national team level was a pleasure to see. And you don't like looking back, don't like being negative, but it just makes you think, man, if we had this guy during the Euro, it probably could have made a big difference, especially when pictures of him, having brunch after being ruled out, not being able to be on
People
the field.
forget that. People forget that.
Why couldn't he be there?
In the middle of the tournament, I think it was before the France game.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these pictures of João Cancelo start popping up on social media, and he's out to brunch or out to something, and we're just like,
yeah, let's send that up.
Can he just come back?
Get him on the flight?
But,
yeah. Seems clear.
Yeah, he seems ready to go. So, but yeah, he was definitely a loss last summer, and just being able to get him back and having him be able to contribute is definitely something that going forward is going to be one of the main focal points of the attack for the Seleção. But it was just nice to see. Ricardo Horta, excuse me. He's a guy who's been on the outside looking in for so long. Some call-ups are tougher than others, but he could just consistently, time and time again, was just left out. And it's hard to break into that midfield for the last few years, given the talent there. But I also think he's merited a call-up prior to this. But he's played so well for Braga these last few seasons. You have to, as a Portuguese fan, you have to feel good for him being able to come back after 7 years from his last call up, and not only come back to the scene, but actually score the goal that gives the Seleção a much needed point heading out of Spain. What were your thoughts on the goal?
Yeah, it was
and Cartualta.
Yeah, it was a feel good story, really, because how often do you see players get their moment with the national team, they don't perform, and then they never get that call again, whether it be, politics with a coach, or, team chemistry, or just being unfortunately, at the wrong club, because sometimes there's, the Portuguese system, if you're not part of the, the big three, or out with a big international club, you're not going to get that shine. And so, it's just kind of unfortunate that he was on the outside. To see him get recalled and then see the field. I did not have him on my bingo card seeing the field, let alone getting the goal. So, just to see that payoff, that decision to call him up, that decision to put him in, it was a feel good story, because you don't see someone outside of the big three clubs, break in and make themselves, a commodity at the national team level. And to see him do that, it makes you think, okay, that opens the door maybe for some other players, and he'll probably end up getting scooped up by one of those other teams anyway, but that's kind of the way that goes. That's a positive for him eventually.
Yeah, rumors are that he will be at the Estádio da Luz with Benfica next year, and a big club for a player like him should be the next step. And the next step, he's not a young guy. I mean, he's in his mid to late 20s here. So, he's plied his trade admirably at Braga for years, and a step up to get him some Champions League football, I think would be good too.
That's kind of the funny thing, to make the MLS American soccer connection. It's actually the older brother to Andre Horta, who came to LAFC as their designated player, big splash international signing, and he flamed out here in the other side of Los Angeles, or out there. And so, as a Galaxy fan, it was nice. His most famous moment is a terrible back pass costing his team a lead. So, that's kind of the connection that he had here to the States. And so it's unfortunate that they kind of have that reputation. So when I saw the name, I was like, wait a minute, I didn't have good vibes with him coming in, but he, to see, Ricardo have some success, you feel good about
it. How would he have done if he went to the Galaxy instead of LAFC?
Sadly,
I'm just wondering.
Not any better,
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go straight homer. I thought you were going to go straight homer on that. I mean, he would have been better than João Pedro. Okay.
I was going to say João Pedro.
Maybe that's blasphemous.
Yeah. Tondela captain, where's his call up? He should be getting those minutes there. No, but unfortunately the Galaxy are a team that wasted the talent of Zlatan Ibrahimovic for a few seasons. So I don't know that there's much that they could have fixed with a different designated player there.
So we're finishing up here talking about the Spain game here, as Eric Vieira joins me on episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast. I want to bring up a tweet, and for those of you guys watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it on your screen here. Let me get it here. But I think this one kind of encapsulates kind of the idea of where we're at right now with this national team. And again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm gonna be here. But let me see if I can bring that up a little bit more. Of course, I'm not going to be able to get anyway. From Campeões, looks like this guy is, I think, a Portista. Yeah, he's up there. So, congratulations on your trophy there this year. Leão needs more minutes. Moutinho is finished. Fernandes needs to sit out a while. Silva is a ghost. We need to find more center back options ASAP. I think in mid-November we will all be regretting not having moved on from Santos after the Euro. Also, more Vitinha, more Nunes, more Horta. That's a lot to get in 240 characters. But I thought it's succinct. It was very succinct and to the point.
I was going to say, you stole the words right out of my mouth. For a tweet, that is impressive that it covered that much ground and pretty much nailed it in terms of kind of a game synopsis. I agree. Leon does need more minutes. Moutinho is not the guy. Fernandes maybe needs to sit in, and Silva was a ghost. As being is talking about Bernardo Silva or Andre Silva, because I'm an Andre Silva guy. Actually, both Silvas. I think they'll keep their spots. That's the one thing I'll disagree with. But bring more center back options, and then we'll be regretting moving on. And then I also agree with bringing kind of more young players into the mix. So yeah, well crafted tweet. And I like that you were able to include all of that in there. So impressive. The one thing that I will say, I know you were saying being a bit of a Debbie Downer, and this is a bit of a negative tweet. I'm just here to bring that other side. You got a point in Spain. You don't see Spain again until September. You have 3 winnable games in the next 10 days. So this is not all doom and gloom. Let's see.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
I think that Portugal has a lot to grow on. I think looking back, kind of final thoughts on the Spain game, the passes were not crisp. And I think that's something that Portugal has not been great at doing. And we saw it in World Cup qualifying. And when you're playing, a Luxembourg or a North Macedonia, maybe you can get away with not having, crisp passes, but against Spain, you're going to get punished for it. And we saw what happened. They got punished for not having the passing on point today. And so I think when you go and play someone who's not Spain, maybe you can have that talent make up for it. And so that's why, let's look forward to this. You got a point on the road against Spain. And now let's look forward and get some more positives, because there's definitely points to be had in the next 3 matches.
The voice of reason. It is definitely Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Let me get negative though again. No, I'm kidding.
In true Portuguese fashion.
Yeah, it's we can never be too happy. One of the when the call ups came about, I really wanted to see José Sá get an opportunity this summer. And again, I just. As happy as I was that we won the first Nations League, there'll never be anyone who wins a first Nations League other than Portugal. I also know that given the circumstance of this Nations League, with no friendlies, with no camp, really, this tournament, this session of Nations League was going to be a glorified training camp. So I was, when Diogo Costa got the call back in March for the playoffs, kind of, I did the whole, a dog here's a sound. I think I've done this on on the podcast before, but you just, the dog hears a sound, you kind of just go, huh, Diogo Costa's in there. Yeah, okay. The one thing I will say about Diogo Costa that I really liked in those 2 matches was his distribution, and you saw a little bit of it even today. But he did have a shaky day, and it wasn't North Macedonia and it wasn't Turkey that he was facing. It was a perennial power in Spain. But to go back to the José Sá point and this kind of piggybacks on the current goalie situation, the keeper situation, is I don't think that Diogo Costa has done enough in my opinion, to kind of cement him as the number 1, and that's why I was hoping that José Sá would get his opportunity this summer. Obviously, he injured himself in the last club match against Liverpool, so it's gonna be the summer of Diogo Costa for sure. So, what are your thoughts on him, and what do you think? I'll just kind of, before you give me yours, I'll give you mine. Because José Sá is out, I think Diogo Costa has every opportunity to cement his spot. Fairly or not, because I think José Sá has earned a right to that number 1 spot, but because of injury, this go around, he's not going to be able to. What do you think of Diogo Costa as a number 1? And kind of just like your thoughts on how he played today.
Yeah. So, you said you wanted to see José Sá out there. I think José Sá wanted to see himself out there. It was really unfortunate that the last game of the season is, when he got hurt and kind of spoiled any opportunity that he may have had. The one thing that goalkeepers have going for them is their age. Sá being 29 years old, their age is usually not that factor. Keepers usually last a little bit longer on the field. So the window for them to be the guy, you have opportunities. You can be, 29, 30 years old and then become the guy later on and be the solid goalkeeper for, 4 to 8 years, a couple cycles. But to your point, when are we going to give these young guys an opportunity to step in? If you are moving on from Rui Patrice and you want to find who's going to be your next goalkeeper for your next generation, for the next, 2 World Cup cycles, 3 World Cup cycles, bringing in a 22-year-old goalkeeper who's been part of your youth national team setup, who's been the guy on that level. Let's give him the start and let's make him the guy. I agree with you that he hasn't necessarily earned that. And maybe he has, is not quote unquote deserving of being, the Portugal number one. You have to really go out and prove it, maybe at a club level, and also have, quite a few caps. But, how do you get caps other than getting those caps and playing in these games? So I think if this summer he has a good summer and it shows that he's capable, why go backward and go in with an older keeper when you can have someone who is going to be your keeper of the future? Anoint him now, right or wrong, but you're kind of, it's like you're betting on a racehorse in the future. It's like, okay, I don't know how they're going to perform, but I'm putting all my money on this one and hoping that this is the one that works out. And I think that's kind of what Fernandes Santos is doing, is saying, okay, this is the young keeper. He could be the keeper of the future. So why are we going to, have him quote unquote develop and wait in the wings? Let's put him in now, trial by fire, playing against Spain, playing in competitive matches, playing in World Cup playoffs. Let's get him in there, get him that seasoning now. And maybe he hasn't quote unquote earned it yet, but if he earns it after being in these situations, why not? Why not make him, the guy moving forward? So I agree with you in the part that, okay, he hasn't, what is this, a player that really has the pedigree to, when you look at the roster, the pedigree to be your number one keeper? I actually wouldn't have been upset if I saw Patricio in goal today, given the Saw injury and, the experience that he has, especially going against Spain. You think, okay, if we saw Patricio, I wouldn't have been upset at that, but seeing Costa in there, it's like, okay, they're betting on this guy. And so the only way you're going to get better is with those reps, and he's being thrown into the deep end, and let's see how he performs. I could see him being the guy after the summer.
Yeah. And I think I talked about it a little bit on Twitter. It's like, if you want to anoint him after two matches, that's fine. But I also, on the other side of that coin, I don't think you abandon it after a shaky performance against one of the top
Correct.
teams so it's, it is a baptism by fire, and you are going to have to, do some, have a little bit of growing pains, and what better competition than Spain and in a major tournament. But it's just, I think it's just more of a preference thing for me. I will more times than not go with someone who is, proving themselves at a higher level of competition in the EPL, like José Sá. But Diogo Costa was the keeper of the year in the Portuguese league. So, and one keeper of the month multiple times. So he's not some scrub that is just, coming through the youth system. You mentioned it. He's played in big games in the under 21s and the under 19s. So he's doing what he has been asked to do, going up these youth levels to get to the senior side. It's just, for me, it's just more of a timing thing for him and wanting to see José Sá go forward. But hey, well, it's the Diogo Costa show for sure this summer.
It's definitely his job to lose. That's for sure.
100%. Sunday against Switzerland. Switzerland currently sit at the bottom of Group A. Let me go ahead and bring up the current standings. And again, folks on YouTube, you're getting a show today. I'm clicking everywhere. It's amazing. But we got the Czech Republic. They beat Switzerland earlier today. They sit atop Group A2 in the Nations League. Portugal and Spain, they obviously split the points and drew 1-1 there, and then Switzerland at the bottom. Obviously a huge match for Switzerland, just because after the Sunday game in Portugal, you're already a third of the way done with the group. And if you are coming away with 0 points after 2 matches with only 4 left, you're putting yourself in a big hole. Not even so much as to win the group, but now you're trying to not get demoted, which is kind of the one of the unique things I do like about this Nations League format, is kind of promotion and demotion as well. But all to play for Portugal to make sure that they can kind of, it's kind of a similar situation with with the Serbia situation in qualifying, where it's like you have control of this group going forward. And I know it's only one game, but you only have 5 games left. If you see this out, and especially with Spain at the end, you have them on home soil. If you see this out all the way to that match in September, you can find yourself atop of this group and trying to go for another international trophy. But what would you, Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, like to see on Sunday against Switzerland that you didn't see Thursday against Spain?
Well, it's funny. You've gotten in my head with the negativity, because here's the joke that I have is why get knocked out of the group now when you can take control of the group and get knocked out of the group on the final day at home? That's the way that's how you want to get knocked out.
That's how Portuguese people do it, man.
This is how you do. This is how it's
Get
done.
your hopes up and then rip it right at the end. At home, no less, just like against Serbia. God damn it, Eric, you're a genius.
So with this Switzerland game, with absolutely no disrespect to Czech Republic, which whenever you say that, you're about to disrespect them. But if Switzerland wasn't able to get a point against the Czech Republic, then they're really in trouble, because you have Portugal next, you have Spain next, and that puts them in a dangerous territory to that relegation zone with this Nations League the way it's set up. So they're really kind of in a bad situation. So you're going to get a Switzerland team that is hungry to get some points off of Portugal. What I'd like to see from Portugal, and what I think we've seen it, depending on the competition that they play, you didn't see it against Spain. I'd like to see them possess more. I'd like to see them, control the game, which is something that they didn't do today. So I want to see them do that against Switzerland. I think they can do that against Switzerland. And so I still want to see Leao out there. I want to see Silva, get Andre Silva get some more looks, some opportunities to get some goals. So basically, I just want to see them in control of the game without looking as shaky on defense. Maybe we swap out, get a Nuno Mendes in there, on the other side, get him some looks. I want to see a team that dominates and a team that is able to put away their chances. I think maybe Leao, shook some of the rust, maybe, had some of the stage fright gone against Spain, and he could maybe have a big performance against Switzerland this Sunday.
Yeah, you could get Diogo Jota back. He was out, obviously. I think Thiago as well on the Spain side. Both of them just had gotten into camps following the Champions League final. That was just this past Saturday, so understandable that he was out for the Thursday matchup. Could see himself not only with the squad again on the team sheet, but maybe even in the starting 11. As again, we are playing 4 matches in 10 days. Wouldn't surprise me at all, and I would be shocked actually if Cristiano Ronaldo is not in the starting lineup. And Leao had his shot against Spain. Not that is his only shot whatsoever. I mean, but again, it's going to be a rotational thing, and I think points are a premium, especially playing at home. Take advantage of that and put yourself in a spot to where you can hopefully get a victory, and hopefully, I think at the end of the day, you do want to advance. It is a tournament, but. And I talked about this with Nathan Moats, and Nathan has mentioned this multiple times, not only on this podcast but on Twitter as well. This team is without much of an identity in terms of how they go about their business, with the amount of talent that they have and how it is executed. I guess it's an identity crisis. And I failed to say identity crisis last episode, but I think it's fair to say it here. And again, it's Spain. Spain's going to do that to a lot of people. But I think it's because – go ahead.
I was going to say, what worse opponent to have an identity crisis than Spain, a team that has a very clear identity, a very clear way that they play and a style. It doesn't always work out for them. Sometimes they pass teams to death and have absolutely nothing to show for it in the finishing department. But you know how Spain is going to come. So that I agree with you when you see it's like, which Portugal are we going to get? Let's spin the wheel and let's see which are we going to get, the Ronaldo hat trick Portugal, or are we going to get the Ronaldo who's ready for WrestleMania? So you never know. And so I agree with you. We need there, and that comes possibly with a coaching change. Someone who comes in with because at this point, someone who's been the coach of the team, for the last 7 years, the identity is what the identity is, and if it's lacking, it's going to continue to lack.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe what we're kind of leading to is the identity is that it's just inconsistent. It's like sometimes the only constant in the only constant is change. Well, maybe the only constant in this identity is that they just don't know who they are, and that's an issue. Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to something that really sparked some controversy today. Although not official, the jersey that I'm about to present to you was leaked, and we'll go with the one on the right here. And I did a little comparison because people were just freaking the hell out. But the jersey on the right, if you're watching on YouTube, is the proposed, reportedly, the away jersey. And I like saying, it's an away jersey for the World Cup. I mean, it's in the same spot, but what I mean.
The change kit,
but the change. So if like for instance, and you even joked about it with me via text, and you're like, they're not wearing the jersey today.
Yeah, the leak comes out, and they're not even wearing the jersey. Yeah,
absolutely. So on the right hand side is the purported or reported jersey that the away jersey for the Seleção. It does nothing for me. I don't hate it. But I think it's just, again, Nike has just done away with any kind of personalization or any kind of ties to the national team other than the federation logo that goes on the jersey. On the left hand side is the jersey that they wore today, which when announced, everybody had a lot. Oh, there it is over your right shoulder.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm covering it, but I did end up purchasing it.
Okay, so have you worn that jersey?
I have worn that jersey, and so if we go when that jersey came out, I hated it, and Nike took a big swing, and I thought how that jersey could have been fixed is had they just had those stripes across the chest and the rest of it been that aqua or that teal. I think that would have been an impeccable shirt. But seeing it on the field,
100%.
It grew on me over time. And speaking of lacking an identity, the identity is kind of those stripes. They're also on that same style as on the home kit as well on the side. And so I think there was a cohesion there. And I ended up coming around and really enjoying the last cycle's away jersey, which is the one they wore today versus Spain. Now with the new jersey, it does feel a little bit lazy in the fact that it's just like, okay, let's put a Portuguese flag across the front, put the badge on. We can't make it red because it's the away jersey. Let's make it white, and now we're done. Let's go to lunch. We finish this in a couple hours, and we're good to go. That's how it feels when you look at it. And you keep saying reportedly, and I will say as a member of the uniform police.
You are.
Headlines. Footy Headlines is very accurate. They are rarely wrong with their leaks. They don't put their leaks out unless they're pretty reliable. So I feel like this is going to be the shirt. It kind of matches with some of the leaked colors that they were going to say, but it just feels a little bit lazy. It has, the Portuguese flag minus the screw in the front. And then it's a white jersey with blue C. There's not a lot of imagination. At least with the last jersey, there was a big swing. They went bold. They went for something. This one, it's a little more subdued, a little more quiet. So again, I'm with you. It doesn't wow me. I don't hate it, but it's just kind of there. And I think you're probably going to bring up the tweet that summed it up. I felt like it was the best summation of it.
Yeah, and I am going to to bring it up. But just as of this recording, I put out a poll on Twitter. You can go ahead and go to twitter.com/selecaopod, and which is the worst looking jersey between the 2020 away jersey and the 2022 away jersey. And so far, 53% say that this new jersey is worse than the old one. I'm going to try to find the tweet right now because I thought it was so creative and so just there it is.
And while you pull it up, I will just say negativity again. You didn't say which one is the best kit. You said which one is the worst kit. So again, it's all about wording. We're going to work with you, Danny. We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay.
Oh my God.
It's okay not to be okay, but we could switch things around.
Eric, you're a good man. You're a good man. At Huy MVR, In response to the 2022 World Cup jersey, he says, "It looks like a kit that FIFA games make up when they don't have a license. Kind of generic." And that I felt that.
Perfect.
Yeah,
It's
because I think I think FIFA 22, 21, they didn't have
did not
the
have
license for Portugal.
Correct.
And it just felt like I was playing some generic football video game every time, and it's strange how something like that will keep you from playing international games.
It's so funny
on FIFA.
I'm right there with you. I don't know why. And there are people who dislike, because I've had this same conversation whenever the Galaxy get a new jersey, it becomes a whole episode talking. People are like, okay, can we get to the soccer? Do we have to talk about the kits? But people love kits, and what they wear is important. You want to feel proud when you put on the shirt of your national team or your home club. So it does matter to a lot of people, and it is important. But I'm right there with you on a video game. When you don't have the license, it doesn't feel the same when you don't have the jersey that your club actually plays in. And so
it feels wrong.
It feels wrong. Yeah. And so exactly
it feels
what
off.
this looks like. Yeah, it's like, okay, what are the colors of this nation? Let's put some of the colors on the shirt, and then we can say that this is the colors of the nation. Yeah, that's how this shirt feels. So that being said, Footy Headlines, the website that released this, when they released the color palette for it, they said that it was going to be sail. So it's not white, it's sail. So kind of like a cream color. And then
whatever
obsidian, obsidian,
which is black,
blue, which is it's like a dark.
Oh, it's blue.
Probably what's on those sleeves
maybe
so
a little azure. See, I couldn't figure out if it was black or like a dark navy blue.
Yeah, like
you might have me
really
if it's a dark
blue.
Navy blue.
I think that's what it is. And then pepper red is the red accent color. I think with blue shorts, the dark blue
it should be Mlagueta. It should be Mlagueta red if we're going to keep it, Portuguese.
Maybe there was a translation there that with they had to switch it to pepper red. But I think with some obsidian or dark blue shorts or navy shorts and either red socks, or if you go with navy socks with some red, I think this could be a good look. The middle stripe aside. So we'll hold judgment until we see the full kit. And like most kits, and I've been through this a lot with a club getting new kits every couple of years, everyone always hates it when it first comes out. And then eventually you see it on the field, and that has, you build your connection. You're a fan of the club, and it usually grows on people and isn't as bad as whatever the first initial reactions are. The first reactions are always bad. But this is one, because I don't look at it and say this is horrific. I think this is a jersey that will grow on you over time.
Would you buy this shirt today?
Today, no. But I said that about this one that I have behind me as well. I said I was not buying it, and there it is.
I was excited when the red one came out with the collar. I thought it was very smart. I hated the bolt of lightning on the side, but I thought it was a very cool look. Some folks just don't like the collar at all, but yeah, that's just I had that's the other jersey that I have hanging. The collar, I thought it was a sharp look, and I agree. I think that was the Nike template, that it didn't have the connecting stripes. It had, as you call it, the lightning bolt. I think had that stripe just been consistent all the way down, you would have had an A+ of a kit. But while we're on kit news, Footy Headlines also released the home kit that they'll be wearing this World Cup will be wine colored. So they are returning to the dark maroon of the 1998 to 2000. Which I think they do for the World Cup years, because it's like 06 was a dark.
06 was like that. 06 was the last time they wore that maroon, that wine red. So they are returning to that as an homage to when they first wore Nike back in 1998. So just, if you like the dark maroon kits, they're coming back.
All right, Eric, you're very positive, and I appreciate that.
We're getting new kits. We got a point in Spain. We have games coming up that are winnable. Let's get excited. This is a good thing. Living
together. It's it's a whole thing. Last thing here for you, and I greatly appreciate your time, because for those that don't know, Eric obviously is on an LA Galaxy podcast, but recently in the last year and a half,
a little over a year, yeah.
Yeah, Eric made the move with his family to the state of Texas, and whereabouts in Texas? One more time.
So I'm north of Dallas, so it was a work relocation out to support the family north of Dallas, Texas. So Frisco, Texas, if you're familiar with it, a little bit north of that. So not quite Oklahoma, but not quite in the middle heart of Dallas either, but close enough.
Understood.
So yeah, it's been positive move for the family. Obviously you miss, the family that you have back in California, but we're adapting and doing well with the things here. And it is kind of funny that, still an LA Galaxy, Southern California soccer supporter, just kind of halfway across the country now.
McConaughey hasn't got his hands on you yet?
Not yet. We just,
Okay.
Galaxy just beat Austin. They, wiped the floor with them this past weekend. So exciting times.
All right. So, as I show you here, as I continue to play with the screens, if you're watching it on YouTube here, so Sunday's matchup against Switzerland, kickoff is at 2:45 Eastern, 11:45 here on the West Coast of the States. I think that would make it. I'm going to do some quick math. I think that puts it at 7:45 local time in Portugal. To the U.S. audience, as our audience is predominantly here in the States, that game is not going to be on any of the Fox networks. No Fox, no FS1, no FS2. It's going to be on Fubo TV. Now, I am aware of Fubo TV. I don't subscribe to Fubo TV. I have heard that VIX is also a option for Spanish speaking.
VIX is also great if you're not feeling well. Put a little bit of that on your chest before you go to bed.
Had
to get that in there. Come on.
Yeah, on your feet, then put the socks on, and then then it's over. But yeah, this is part of ESPN losing out to Fox for Nations League. ESPN made it a little easier with ESPN Plus. So if you're not with Fubo, you might be missing out. I am probably going to try that 7-day free trial they offer, and
I was going to say,
see if I can't cancel.
If you time it right, you can get a free week sample, and you can get it, get all the next 3 games if you time it just right, and you order it on the 5th. And I have Fubo TV. After cutting the cord, we went with a digital service. So if you have like a YouTube TV or a Hulu Live or any of those, Fubo is competitive with that. And actually, this is the reason I got Fubo, is because you get a lot of the soccer channels, all the TUDNs, which covers a lot of the Euro games, a lot of South American soccer. So not that I work for Fubo or get any money for it, but as a soccer fan, it's if you need a cable alternative, Fubo is not a bad choice to go with.
Yeah, so the match on this coming Sunday against Switzerland is on Fubo TV and VIX, as is the following Sunday against both games against Switzerland are on
the Swiss
Fubo TV and VIX. FS1 for the Thursday match at home against the Czech Republic. So that is just kind of an update of where we are with those games here. Eric, do you have any? Mr. Positive. You don't, and it doesn't have to be positive, but I mean, just any last remarks before we finish up here on episode number 62.
No last remarks. I think I've said it. I just mentioned it. We got a point.
All right, man. See you later.
We got a point against Spain. We have winnable matches coming up. We're going to grit our teeth during the Fernandes summer and likely into the World Cup, given everything that's going on. But let this be a swan song, and let's accept it that he's there, and let's just hope that he's able to make the moves that get Portugal the results, because he has shown that he has the ability to do that. So while they can be frustrating to watch, Portugal maybe underachieves to an extent, but they're not bottom dwellers. They're not, it's not like they're missing out on qualification for a World Cup, with some bounces going the wrong way. It's not like they're playing in Nations League C, working for a place, they're in Nations League A. They have a solid team. They have a solid roster. If you're a supporter of this team, there are a lot of positives. It's not all doom and gloom. That's my, we need your votes. We need you out there. Support Portugal. Have a good day.
You're the man, buddy. That was Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. I failed to direct you to his Twitter at Hammer EV. I believe last time you were on the show, Eric, we were on the road to 1,000 follows, and you have now smashed through that. So good for you.
Thanks for your help.
And also
we went through it.
Yeah, and also make sure you go to cornerofthegalaxy.com. Get yourself. It's the sticker. You cannot get the bottle. The bottle is a knockoff Hydra flask. But get yourself a Portuguese Hammer sticker and go to cornerofthegalaxy.com there. Buddy, greatly appreciate you coming on, and we will talk soon.
Appreciate it. And then we'll see you at the LA Galaxy versus Sacramento Republic Open Cup match, right?
I didn't even talk to you about it, and I was gonna, I will not. A scheduling note. I might as well say it now. I'll say it on the next episode too. There will not be a recap of the Switzerland game. There will be a preview. I'm going to be talking with Craig King. He covers the Swiss national team. That'll be the episode coming out after this one. But in preparation for a very big family vacation, I think I will be having not so much a vacation from the pod, but I will not have as many episodes out during the next week. But I will have a recap of the final 2 games of the June game. So we'll recap the Czech Republic game and the second Swiss game at the end of I would say maybe the 12th or 13th there. But Sacramento. To your point, the Republic are. Hold on, where am I at here? The Republic are definitely going all the way to the U.S. Open Cup. Oh, and then if you don't know what this is, Eric, is again we're viewing for our viewers. That is a Corner of the Galaxy button or a pin.
Well done.
That I put there on the All-Star.
You got all the merch.
All-Stars. Yeah, my wife is very mad at me for all the money that I spend on this stuff. You're the best, my man. Thank you so much, and we will talk soon.
All right, appreciate you, Danny. Thanks for all that you do for our beloved Seleção.
Oh, you got it, buddy. That will do it here for episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast. Again, my thanks to Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. You can follow Eric. I got to get that Twitter handle there at HammerEV. That's at HammerEV on Twitter. He is a great follow. He's a big time member of the Uniform Police too. I think anytime you can talk uniforms, which I mean it's always fun to do. Give Eric a follow there on Twitter at HammerEV. Again, you can follow the show on Twitter at SeleçãoPod, Facebook.com/SeleçãoPod. You can follow us on Instagram as well at SeleçãoPod, and email the show seleçãopod@gmail.com. And of course, you can bookmark the website seleçãopod.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play. Make sure, I forgot the ratings. The ratings on both now Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you have not yet, and if you are so inclined, it is absolutely FREE to do. But if you can, give us a 5-star rating on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave us a note, a nice review on those platforms. It definitely makes our show more visible for those who like to listen to podcasts like this. Same thing with youtube.com/SeleçãoPod. It's important for us to try to get as many eyes, not only ears, but eyes on this show. So go to youtube.com, search the Seleção podcast. If you're watching, hit the like button on this episode. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to us as well. My thanks again to Eric Vieira for joining us here on episode number 62 of the Seleção podcast, a proud partner of Portugal.net. A draw in Spain, we'll take it. Let's see what we do on Sunday against Switzerland. All to play for the Seleção during Nations League. And as always, Força Portugal!